let's start with let's go with the introduction of our guest speaker. So at this time, if you don't mind, Faisal, if you can give us a little introduction about yourself, give us your story, um, and share your expertise and share your background with our audience
Sure.
here.
Sure. Thank you, Ronnie. Thanks for the presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining. My name is Faisal. I work as a database slash business intelligence analyst. I work on projects for a variety of companies, Oracle, Google, and Cisco, MicroStrategy. So I worked on a lot of projects for the major IT corporations based here in the Bay Area. As far as my academic background, I have a Bachelor of Science in Information Management with a focus on database engineering from Palm Beach State College in Florida. I also have certifications. I'm an Oracle certified associate, MicroStrategy certified analyst, MicroStrategy certified designer. For those who don't know, MicroStrategy is a business intelligence tool. I'm also certified in automating with Excel and certified in the innovation and leadership. So I have a variety of certifications. I'm working on additional ones, and I speak many languages, French, Arabic, and English. I That's pretty much in terms of the projects, works in the SMB business unit of Google. Small medium businesses. I worked in the data privacy team, works on a variety of process improvement projects, automating projects, business intelligence, analyzing existing data sets and trying to answer questions, responding to ad hoc requests using data and using BI models.
Thank you, Faisal. This was a great intro. So like
You're
I
welcome.
said again at the beginning, you get this webinar is really for you guys to really learn as much as you can and as much as you want from Faisal here. First, I guess to get things started, let me ask you, I think, a question that I'm sure a lot of people here from our audience will be wondering. So, what is it, I guess, like? What is your typical day look like as a data analyst?
A typical day is, I mean, there is no typical day really. I mean, you work on projects. Some of them are execution projects. And what I mean by execution, if you're working on, let's say, marketing campaigns, then you need to do production work. You want to get data from sources, you want to massage it, apply suppression, and then deliver data to stakeholders so it can be used for example, launching a certain campaign or analyzing something. If you're working on process improvements projects, then you want to wake up in the morning and trying to explore opportunities for improvement. So you want to see what are you doing wrong? How can we streamline the process? You want to document it, and you want to understand how can we make this whole data pipeline more efficient and allowing better data flow. So it depends on the nature and the complexity of the projects you work on. There is no typical data analyst day. However, I would say in general that you want to very simply have the skills to import data from a variety of sources. The ETL, which stands for extract, transform, and load. So you want to familiarize yourself with the functions, either in Excel or any other tools, to clean it, so it can be used to build models in your business intelligence tool, so it can be visualized and therefore allow better decision making in your organization.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer, Faisal.
You're welcome.
Wondering, so next, when we're waiting for a question here from the audience, can you tell me what you I guess what you like the most about your job, and what you, I would say, dislike maybe the most?
That's a very good question, because I remember when we spoke 10 days ago, you asked me this question, and I was thinking about what I dislike. I haven't found anything really that I dislike. But I might point out certain things. What I like first is that thinking analytically is a great skill. You know, it's really, I apply it on my daily life in every single aspect of my life. So you want to really, you have this tendency of making data-driven decisions and thinking analytically about every single thing you're doing in your life. Like you want to use data. It happens so fast sometimes and consciously, but you want to use data and trying to process it and trying to visualize it in your brain to make better decision making, either be like major in school or a certain investment, or you want to change your job. Everything is really data driven when you think analytically. That's what I like about my job. It's beyond the scope of my actual my job. It's really, a data analyst is a lifestyle. It's not just a profession. What I dislike, I mean, practically, I would say you're staying at the desk the whole day. However, it's a necessary transition position, because even as a data analyst, you can be a data analyst even if you shift to a different position, even if you're like a tech sales, or even if you're an operation manager, or even if you're a analytics engineer, you're still a data analyst. You use data analysis in anything. So I won't say, stay in the desk the whole day is something I would say negative. However, being a data analyst requires a lot of research. It might be boring for some people, but it's very charming actually when you know what you're doing. So that's what I like about it. It's really the ability of gaining the right skill, and it's a life skill. It's not something that you just use for your job or your position. It's something that you will be using throughout your entire life.
I like that. I really like the answer. It's true. I guess being analytic, it's not something that's just useful for your current job as a data analyst, but it's something that you
Absolutely,
can apply to a lot of different professions for sure.
100%.
So now, can you tell me, because we've had quite a few data scientists, related webinars. And
Okay.
I was just wondering what would be the difference? What would be the best way to explain the difference between a data scientist and a data analyst?
They overlap. There is a common ground, but there are some differences. There are some similarities. And it's like complementary. Like a data scientist is a data analyst somehow. A data analyst is a data scientist. So what is data analysis? It's very simply analyzing existing data. So speaking about the analytics is the science and the techniques used to understand what happened, and that's what we refer to as descriptive analytics. And that's where I would position the job or the position of a data analyst. And then you have understand what happened to make better decisions and to predict what's going to happen. And what's going to happen, that's the predictive analytics. So you have the descriptive, you have predictive, and you have also prescriptive analytics. So a data analyst most of the time in the real world is when you use a lot of data, trying to understand what really happened, trying to build models, trying to tell stakeholders about the story, what's happening in your organization, which products has been sold the most, how to cluster your customers, what are your best target audience, for example, for a certain campaign. And then a data scientist is someone that uses mostly, he does this job or she does this job, but also build models to build predictive models. So you're using math models trying to predict what happened before. And that's a data scientist. So it's someone that has the skills of using existing data, visualize it, and then build models to build math models, very advanced machine learning models to predict the future. Most of the time, a data analyst is dealing with structured data. A data scientist is dealing with unstructured, structured, and semi-structured. So we're speaking about data lakes. For data analysis, we're speaking about data warehouse. So as you can see, there are some boundaries between data analysis and data science.
Okay, that's great. So we got a question here from Josh Jeet. Hopefully I didn't mispronounce the name. Would you suggest narrowing on a language to work with data or get a broad understanding of several languages as someone who doesn't have any programming language experience?
I would say, language skill number one in data analysis, since you're going to be dealing with structured data. And what I mean by structured, it's data in rows and columns. It's data in spreadsheet formats. Uh, the language number one is SQL or SQL, which stands for Standard Query Language, which is the language that we use, very similar to the English language, by the way. It's like select statements. Uh, the language used with structured data to pull data, to query data from existing data sets. So I would say in terms of programming, SQL. Python is also used extensively recently by many companies. There is a variety of languages. It's not the language itself. I would like you to focus more on the logic behind it and how to tell the code to do what you wanted it to do. So it's like the language you'll find C, C++, Java, DAX. Recently, I started searching about DAX, data analysis expression, which is used in data modeling, Power Query with Excel. So there is a variety of languages, different syntax, but the idea is the same. You just want to develop the logic of saying, I need this piece of data from this data warehouse. I want to use a code, doesn't matter which language, the code to get this piece of data. And that's the most important thing. So, but I mean, to give you a short answer, I would say SQL. SQL is language number one to learn.
Okay, great. Thank you. So for our audience here who is, I guess, not in the industry.
I don't have this luxury here. I don't see the audience. I don't know how many.
It's on YouTube. It's on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Faisal, yeah.
I see.
The for those who are not, I guess, familiar, who don't have any experience yet in the industry and want to get an idea on how to get there. So if I'm a student who's aiming to be a data analyst, what would be the best way? How can I start preparing for that role while I'm in college?
There is a variety of ways. I would say most of the time, landing at a data analyst position, it can come from different paths. Usually, it's a STEM based STEM like science, technology, engineering, and math. So if you have like a quantitative discipline, if you have a bachelor in information technology, if you have a bachelor in statistics, if you have a bachelor in math, if you have a master or bachelor in analytics, data science, all of these majors qualify for to begin a career as a data analyst. So it's not really, data analysis requires a lot of skills, and then you need a little bit of statistics, a little bit of math, a little bit of computer science, a little bit of coding. So you need really to get one of these majors. So that's how you can land the job as a data analyst. But it's very I would say very diverse background for data analysts. You're not going to find it's not very narrowed down. You have like very variety of majors that you can have to be a data analyst.
Okay.
But then also, I mean, just to complete the answer, it's you need also certifications, which is very important. So a degree is important. A certification is also important because the certifications tells the employer that you have used extensively a certain technology. You used Oracle or SQL Server or MySQL or Google Data Studio, whatever. I mean, you use a certain technology, and then to prove that you are qualified, certified in a certain technology, you want to get IT certifications.
That makes sense. Question here from Faiz. To how much extent machine learning methods are used in data analytics? So practical real world scenario, which is the mostly used ML method? That's, I guess, a follow-up question.
That's That's a good question. It's but machine learning, it's more like the data science side. It's not the data analysis side, but it is a preparatory, I would say, step to data science. So I'm not sure, is the question what is the most used ML method, or the most, okay, can you repeat the question, please?
So he's wondering how much, to how much extent machine learning methods are used in data analytics. So you're in data analyst, right? And I
Yes.
think you mentioned at the beginning that machine learning
Yes.
kind of overlap with the with what you're doing as a data analyst. So I guess he's
Yes.
wondering how much extent machine learning methods are used in your role, if any.
Yeah, there are a variety of machine learning methods used. I mean, to use any machine learning algorithm, whether it's a decision tree algorithm or a k-mean neighboring, or any machine learning or time series data, you want to get the data into a data source, and you want to train this data. And then many data scientists agree that 80% of the time is used to clean the data before you actually get to the step of building predictive models and predicting data. So this 80% of work, that's a lot of massaging of data that take place. And that is where you need a lot of skills to do that. You can do it with a variety of tools. You can do it in Excel. I discovered awesome capabilities about Excel. You can do it in Python. Most of the time we use Python. You can do it with just SQL scripts, build data pipelines to really get the data ready for to be used for machine learning algorithms.
Okay, that
I don't want to
makes
speak too much about tools, by the way. I just gave you like a broad answer.
no, that's fine. I mean, I'm hoping that this will work for Faiz, who has that question. If not, Faiz, please don't hesitate to let us know on the chat here. So moving on to the next question, a very good one from Jashjit. What are some common job titles that equate to data analysts? She's saying that in her experience, it has been hard to find job openings with the specific title data analyst.
There is a variety of data analyst positions, like in different platforms, either LinkedIn Job or Indeed. However, a data analyst, you're using data to make decisions, right? And then it is very necessary for either an operation manager or like a product designer, or any position within your organization. We need data analysts. So I'm sorry, I just got some text here. I got interrupted. I apologize.
That's
So
okay.
there is a variety of positions:
Mhm.
product managers, operation manager, business intelligence, anything that has to do with business intelligence that has data analysis involved in it. So if you look for data analysts and you don't find enough opportunities coming up, you might search for business intelligence, and you'll be able to find many. Right now, we speak about data science more than business intelligence, but business intelligence is more used when we're referring to structured data in organizations. So you want to be using business intelligence and data, the analytics, maybe analytics engineer. You want to use these keywords to find opportunities. But a data analyst, to not confuse the audience, most of the time, a data analyst is someone that analyzes data, builds pipelines, someone that uses data from a variety of sources. So you want to have the skills to identify your data sources. It's not always easy, because sometimes for certain companies, you'll find you are given a certain database with its data dictionary. So it's not a problem. You can understand your data and answer all the questions. For certain companies, they don't give you a data source. So you need to make this effort yourself to identify your data sources and to build the data dictionary for them. So it depends on the position that you want to identify your data sources, trying to analyze your existing data and trying to build models to visualize it. That's data analysis. Data engineer is someone that builds the infrastructure for this data, builds the pipeline, builds the SQL scripts to have the data flow, for example. Business intelligence engineer is someone who does all of these things together. So you want to have a little bit of skills to import data, a little bit of skills for ETL, which stands for extract, transform, and load, a little bit of skills of the applying math models, trying to plot your data, etc. So as you can see, there is a variety of positions here, but data analysis is present in all of them.
Okay, that makes sense. Jasjit, let us know if you have any follow-up questions, but I think Faisal here mentioned some I guess alternatives in terms of jobs you could search for. Follow-up question here, sorry, another question here from Darlene this time. What are the key things to be mindful of stating in interviews for DA positions? So she's in 6 months boot camp for DA and learning SQL, Python, Excel, and Tableau. How do I guarantee trust in my skills?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please? The last question, the last part?
How do I guarantee trust in my skills?
I would say, I mean, if you have a certification, that's the best way. But the employers, they require that they need people who works on real world projects. So if you works on a project, make sure to highlight that when you apply for a certain position. So just make sure to tell people, I've worked on, let's say, a data set from Walmart, and I was able to analyze the transaction of the last 2 quarters. And I answered these questions, for example, which product has been sold the most, which category of customers has bought the most of these products, what are the characteristics of my target audience. I was answering, I mean, try to list 6, 7 questions and say, I was able to use data to answer these questions. It's really data-driven answers. That's, I think, the best way. Companies, they like those who works on projects. Make sure to have a GitHub account. Make sure to have a maybe an accounting Stack Overflow with some good ratings. That also counts because it's really platform #1 for software engineers and data analysts. So I would say if you have certifications, it's good, but it's also better if you work on projects. Like employers, they really like some people who works on projects, and they look at how similar these projects are to the projects they're working on in a certain organization.
That makes sense, Faisal. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Another question here. How can an experienced professional make a pivot to data analyst role?
Anyone can make a pivot to data analyst role since it's used in every single, I would say, business unit in any company. You will find that data is used somehow in the decision-making process. So you can be a data analyst. If you're a product manager, you can shift into a data analyst. If you don't have any experience, you're students, you're looking for experience, you can begin with the data entry job. A data entry, you enter data into a spreadsheet, and you can develop automated ways to store this data, to feed a certain table, and then you can impress your employer and probably create this data analyst position. If it doesn't exist, you can create the need for it. There is a variety of ways you can impress your employer, but anyone can pivot into data analysis. It's a very in-demand skills. It's used everywhere. And you're also very important because at some points of my career, I tried to work a lot on automation projects. So you want to make sure you have the skills to automate manual, repetitive tasks. So if someone does something manually, repetitively, you want to build tools either with macro, VBA, Excel, SQL, anything is good to automate it. You want to say, what you used to do manually, now we have an automated way. So it's just 2 clicks away and I can get the same results that you guys get. So that's very important. Automation tool, I would say getting the skills, being able to automate processes is also a very important skill for a data analyst. But any position can pivot into a data analyst role.
Okay, great. Thank you, Faisal. So a follow-up question on that. If I guess, what are the job search strategies, the best job search strategies? So for someone like Darlene, for example, she's in a boot camp now, or even for students. So someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, or who has a little bit of experience, what would you recommend as far as job search strategies to find a job as a data analyst at the top company?
Yes, I mean, I would say certifications, very important. Data boot camps are good, but again, you have to work on real world projects, and I think most boot camps offer that. The working on a real world project will impress the employer, because sometimes instead of looking for a certain degree or a certain communication skills, that we're looking for those who works on something similar to what we are working on. If you have like someone in Walmart or Cisco, whatever, any company, and then is trying to analyze existing data set, he or she wants to deal with candidates who works on something very similar to that specific project. Healthcare is also a great field. So if you works on health data, make sure to highlight that in your resume. Say, I works on a project analyzing patients' data for a certain hospital, for example. If you want to work for banks, make sure to work on a fintech project, on a financial projects. Say we analyze data about, I don't know, 1,000 stocks, and we just this is our findings, and this is our predictive model. If you want to go a little bit far, you can say these are our models that predict which stock is going to go up or which stock is going to go down, for example. So it's really, very diverse. But make sure if you want to apply in a certain industry, try to work on a project close to that industry. So if you're interested in oil and gas, try to work on a project in the oil and gas industry. That's what employers like. And also, don't forget about academics. We sometimes require bachelor degree for certain positions. Certifications are good. Boot camps are good. It really depends on the organization. So there is no set rule, in my opinion, but it's the projects, I think, is really criteria number one.
Okay, great. Thank you, Faisal. So follow-up question on that. Are there any resources that you would like to suggest for preparing for the interview for data analysts? Is there like a
There
way
is a
or
variety of resources. I would advertise a little bit very quick about my class in Udemy. If you type a beginner guide to business intelligence and my name, and you will find the class in Udemy. I don't know if I can share the link here. I can just type it.
No, you can just, what we can do is after, at the end of the webinar today, we'll send an email to everyone here, and we'll send it to them. Yeah.
Yeah, so beginner guide into business intelligence with my name, Faisal Mijan, and it's the first one that will come up. So you're very welcome to sign up. It's a very short class of an hour, 15 minutes. It's not a long class. I was able to just speak about what I believe are the most important things. So each chapter, I would say each section can be researched more. But I was able to speak about everything that I believe is very important to begin a data analyst career. If you have that, you have the skills to really begin as a data analyst or a business intelligence analyst for a certain for any company. Again, the companies, they look for those who works on projects. They look at the complexity of the projects you work on. They look at the amount of data that you dealt with. Someone who deal with a spreadsheet of 2,000 rows is not like someone who analyzed 175 or 200 million rows about a certain database, for example. So it really depends also on the volume of data that you dealt with. If you work on something big data, try to highlight that, try to speak about it more. If you use a lot of, don't focus on one technology. Certifications are good, but don't try to focus on just one technology like Excel, MicroStrategy, Tableau, Python. It's good, but focus on the methodology. How do you want a certain output? And then the technology, you can use all of them. Some companies, they just want one technology for all. So it really depends on the organization, but most of the time, if you try to focus on the methodology and the skills, that will allow you to reach a certain results and get something done, not the technology.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, the resources, there is a very good resource. There is I mean, free, I would say, there are good things, but they are expensive too. W3 Schools is a very good resource.com. It has free tutorials about many programming languages, about SQL, about Python, and then you have like a user interface. You can enter your query, you can see the results right away, like the output. Go ahead. You can download also an Oracle database. It's free. You can download SQL Server. You can download a MySQL database. You can try to import data from a variety of sources and use an Excel spreadsheet. There is a lot of tools that allow you to have really hands-on experience with for free at no cost. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Faisal. Another question, I guess, more for those that are wondering what options or what the data analyst, career would look like, throughout, the whole, career. Just wondering what is the path? What are the different options? So for you as a data analyst, what can you do after that in the next few years, in 10 years, in 20 years? Can you give us a little bit idea?
Sure, it is a necessary transition period because for any management position, right? Managers make decisions in organizations. If you want to make a decision, you need data to make this decision. Otherwise, your decision is very I would say, if it's not data driven, it's more likely to be a failure. For if you want to be an operation manager or a financial manager or any managing position, you want to be a data analyst first. So that's really an important, I would say, transition for any position. Product designer, you will use data to make decisions. The products manager, looking at management, projects management, for example, looking at task summary, completion date, scope, planning phase, etc., to make a project to get it completed. You need data in this whole process. So before you shift into any position in your career, you want to be a data analyst. So that's, I would say, the career expectations. It would be product designer, product managers, data scientists, financial managers, business unit managers. There is a variety of positions that you can get after working as a data analyst.
Okay, great. Thank you, Faisal. Another question here from Darlene again. So would you also say networking can give you a further leg up in getting DA positions? Yes, for sure.
100%.
I'll let you answer that one, and I have also an answer that I can give her.
Sure, absolutely. Networking is great. And when I spoke about the platforms earlier, I spoke about GitHub. When you have a project, you worked on a project, and you need people to know about what you worked on, you want to upload your data set and your findings in a GitHub account, right? For example, why? Because GitHub is very known. All software engineers, data analysts around across the US, use GitHub. So you want to go to GitHub accounts, upload that, and it would allow you some maybe you will be able to attract some people into your projects. The same thing, if you have a LinkedIn account, make sure to say I work on this specific project. If you do these, you will be able to build a network that know the tech skills, because in the world of IT, we're looking for tech skills. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, we're looking for it's someone who very specifically spent 5-6 years of his or her career in massaging data, cleaning data. We don't need someone who visualize whatever. We don't need a visualization engineer. We need someone who did the ETL, for example. So we're very specific. We are looking for those who works on something very similar. And the only way to build a network that knows your tech skills is to post your projects in a variety of platforms. GitHub, Stack Overflow, but Stack Overflow, it's more like for questions, answers about tech challenges, but it also allow you to have a certain reputation as a data analyst or a software engineer. So the platform knows you. The more questions you ask or the more questions you answer, the platform gives you badges, and that allow you to have a certain reputation in your background.
Thank you, Faisal. So what I would add to that, Darlene, and I think you actually joined probably a few minutes after I gave a little intro of what High Counselor does, and that's actually what we essentially do is we actually help bridge this gap between those that are looking for a job at a specific company and those that are essentially lacking this network. I mean, when I started my career as a software engineer 20 years ago and wanted to work for companies like Google, I didn't know anyone, and I'm sure, as you know, nowadays it's critical to know someone on the inside. So someone at Google who can actually help you and coach you through the job application process. So unless you know someone, especially at the top companies like Google, I mean, it's impossible to get a job. And I think there are actually even some stats, and I will talk about that toward the end. We'll have a little conclusion, but I think there are some stats that even suggest that 70% of all open positions today is in top companies or even smaller companies. They are filled through networking, which means that 70% is a huge number, which means that it's almost a waste of time to apply to a job through job boards. So again, we'll talk about that later on. Let's move to the next question. We have more questions coming up. So from Just Jeet here, Faisal, how much interaction do you have with Lean Six Sigma methodology as a data analyst?
It is used for a variety of processes in the projects that I worked on, either Lean Six Sigma or any other projects management methodology, Agile or Waterfall, that you will be involved in this process at some point as a data analyst. So that, yes, you will be involved in this whole process.
And follow-up questions so from him, and I actually was going to ask you that same question. So which type of project do you enjoy working on the most? And maybe there is one single project that I don't know, that made you really love even more the data analyst role.
I would say between execution projects, between process improvements projects and analysis projects. I don't know, each one is good. I mean, I don't have any specific, any preference, but I would say analyzing data is a passion. It's something that I enjoy because you have data and you're trying to make something out of it. That's you're trying to really answer questions that cannot be answered without your data analysis skills. That's what I enjoy the most. I also enjoy automation, automating manual tasks. Like you go to a certain, I worked on projects where you see some reports, for example, generated manually by 4 team members or 5 team members, and then they keep exchanging spreadsheets and files and then using them, sometimes in not a very smart way. So you want to look at this whole process and then come up with your own advising slash suggestion for a better way of doing it. You're saying, okay, this report, you need this data from here and this from here. We can actually combine these data into one single data source, and then we can build the consolidated repository, for example, for this data source, and then we can do this, and then automatically we can use a Power Query, we can use a data modeling, and then it will automatically at the end produce the report that you need. So instead of spending days and then exchanging all these files, that's a lot of heavy work. I offer this solution, really offering analytical solutions to streamline, improve processes. It's also one of the projects I really enjoy the most, because it really, I'm not saying it's going to help get rid of employees, but you're just showing that we can do things better and people can spend their time at work doing more relevant things. If you don't want to do the boring things, if you have time, you will get creative at work and you will develop new processes that will allow more intelligent data manipulation. If you don't, then so that's automation and process improvement projects is something that I really enjoyed about my career.
Okay, great. Thank you, Faisal. Quick question on the interview itself. What is the typical format of the interview?
A format, because right now we need most companies, they need someone who has the tech skills and has the communication skills, because it's very hard to find. You either find people who know how to talk, like they have great communication skills, but they don't have the tech skills. They really don't know. They are functional people. They're not technical people. So they can communicate any results, but they can't really do any data behind. They don't know when you speak about data warehousing, when you speak about objects, when you speak about metrics, attributes. They don't know any of that most of the time. You will also find technical people who are very good at coding, who will fix any problem you want, who can build very good apps, but they don't know how to communicate and how to, and something that I struggled with personally. Sometimes you have tech details that is extremely hard to really explain to someone to a non-technical audience. And most of the time, you'll find decision makers who are not technical, so they have no idea. They're like, okay, just get me this button. They don't know that it takes probably weeks, and it's not as easy as you think. Technically, it's very challenging. So I would say a format in the interview, we really focus more on having someone who has the tech side and has the communication side, someone who can use this data, can really familiarize or actually simplify the jargon, simplify the language to a non-technical audience. That's one. And two, I spoke earlier about the industry. We need someone who has something, like he has a certain preference for a certain industry. It's very hard to get. I personally, I'm trying to work on a variety of industries, but it's not like it's possible. It's possible to have someone who, if you work in a bank, we want someone who is very, very comfortable with the financial metrics, for example, who understand, the securities and investment jargon, for example. So we need someone who works on a specific industry, who has the tech skills and who has communication skills, and he or she can multitask. So because as a data analyst, you will work on, like I personally, I work on 5 projects, right? And they overlap. Each project with 2, 3 people. So you will work on a variety of things. It's not just one thing. That's why I said there is no typical day for a data analyst. You'll come in the morning and you have like all these projects, and then you want to see which one is prioritized and how they overlap. are these two projects using maybe the same data source? Then we can do something smart. Instead of doing work twice, we can get a data source just for these two projects. And then I can be able to, kind of complete two projects with the same data, with the same amount of work and money and time. So it's really, this ability of working intelligently on things, that's the type of things. But I would say don't go with a certain structure in your mind, certain framework for the interview, because it's not going to sound natural. Just try to have these skills in mind. All companies are looking for, and then it will come out naturally.
Okay, great. Thank you, Faisal. What are the most common challenges of a data analyst?
I would say to understand the math behind everything, that's a challenge. Technically, everything technically is challenged. Because at the beginning of your career, it's not as easy as it looks. You will get error messages that you don't understand. You will start looking for, in Stack Overflow, in Google, you will start looking for a variety of platforms, someone you know. You will be looking for help as a data analyst. Sometimes you get help, sometimes you don't. So when you don't, you want to have like a workaround. You want to have a plan B. Uh, that's the thing, is that you want to, as a data analyst, there will be this tech challenges, no matter how many projects you work on, no matter how many. But the thing is, the more experience you have, is that you develop a way of, again, the methodology that I spoke about. It's like, I need this output. So, if this cannot be done in Excel, I will try to import data in Access. Access allows me to build SQL queries, and I will build a SQL and then produce this output. And then from this output, I will export it back to Excel. Or I would have it in Python, send it back to Excel, send it back. So you want to be able to know how to play with these tools. If you're so good that you can do everything in one tool, that's great. But if you can't, you want to develop a methodology of, okay, this is my problem. How can I break this problem into small problems? And I would fix each one separately. And then the solution of every single one will lead to this big solution that we're looking for, which is the output that I'm going to share with the whole team. So that's an example of the challenges. There is tech challenges. Another challenge is communication related. You will be speaking to a variety of people who understand the tech aspect of what you do and people who don't. There is a variety of challenges, like communication and tech challenges.
Okay, great. Thank you, Faisal. So I think we are getting close to 4 o'clock here, close to the time we need to end this webinar, unfortunately. But
that was
just,
fast.
yes. And it was great. So just very quick though, I think from the audience, I got a few people asking for resources on interviews and resources to better prepare for the role, etc. So what I will do is Faisal, I will reach out to you after this
Sure.
webinar, and if you can just send me those resources, and I will share them by email with our audience here.
Sure.
But before we wrap up, I think we talked about a lot of different things, and unfortunately, we need to wrap it up in a few minutes now. I was just wondering if there was anything else we didn't talk about that you would want to share for our audience here, who are all aspiring to become, data analysts.
Yeah, I mean, I would like everyone to just focus on the tech skills. They are very important, in a data analyst role. Communication skills are very important, but I would like people to really focus on SQL, specifically SQL, dealing with structured data, answer questions, try to work on projects independently. That's something that school doesn't tell you. You need to say, okay, I have, for example, data from pictures and structured data. It's not in rows and columns. How can I convert a picture into a structured data? There is a variety of tools that do this. So you want to ask questions like, I have data in PDF. Oh, actually, I have textual data. I don't have a lot of numbers in this data set. It's more like policies and standard. Like when I worked on IT security projects, it was like more textual data. So what are the tools that I can be using? In Python, there is like a lot of NLP, natural language processing libraries. So you need to familiarize yourself with that too. But then that's a real data analyst, is someone who can deal with all types of data, structured and unstructured, numeric and textual, and someone who knows a little bit about every tool. Like there are tools that I use. I use MicroStrategy, I use X Dashboard, I use Google Data Studio, I use, and then right now using Excel, I found out that Excel can do a lot of things, you know, just with Power Query, and it's an awesome tool. 90% of companies have Excel, so it's really trying to position itself as business intelligence tool number one, I would say, in the market. So Excel, very important. Google Sheet, which is the equivalent of Excel in for Google products, is very important. Don't try to focus on one technology. It can be either built to developed by Microsoft or Oracle or Google, or just try to focus on the actual the method, how to get a certain output, how to answer a certain question, how to do something, but not the tool itself. So that's what I would say. That's my advice, really. Try to focus on tech skills, because tech skills, they will give you a strong position when you apply for any job.
Thank you so much, Faisal.
It's my pleasure.
So